we will move on. And I just want to talk about boxing news now. We're done with the recaps of the fights from this past weekend, but in boxing news, following his rematch win over Bruno Surace, Jaime Munguía failed a VADA test after testing positive for a banned substance. Now, I didn't want to get you in the weeds here, bud, and get too dirty on this topic, but enough is enough.
What did Howard Cosell do? People love him, hate him. He was with Monday Night Football. He was an icon. What did Howard Cosell? He had his show, telling it like it is. I think that's kind of all I can tell you is that we try to tell it like it is.
Yeah, tell it like it is. You've been telling it like it is your whole entire life, and been pleading and demanding for change and for a national commission, and for there to be more serious repercussions or consequences for the actions of people who are cheating in a sport where people get punched in the face. And it's just, enough is enough. Something needs to be done. I want to talk to you about this because you've trained fighters for 50 years. You've trained 18 world champions and countless other fighters and contenders throughout those 50 years. In your entire career, while training a fighter, not after or before, while you were responsible under your tutelage and your supervision, how many fighters got popped in your career? Zero. I know you're humble. I know you don't want to answer it. It's zero. I say that, bud, because we're talking about now, besides guys getting punched in the head of like I said, over and over, where it can't just be the fighter held accountable anymore. I think it needs to be more than that. I think we have to take more steps. And I say that because you as a trainer, and I know what you put into it and what it sees and what the top trainers do, and you're the top of the top. You make sure that you oversee everything. You're responsible for everything that goes on in a training camp and for a fighter. The strength and conditioning coach, the nutritionist, everything that is in regard to that training camp. You are the supervisor of the training camp and the fighter. With that being said, I hear the remarks of Canelo Álvarez, his trainer, Eddy Reynoso trains Jaime Munguía, saying, well, I support him. Of course, Munguía says he was shocked to find this out. And Eddy Reynoso, Canelo said, well, Eddie doesn't give him his food. Well, you oversee everything. Somebody has to be responsible. If the trainer was held responsible, then maybe this wouldn't happen. Or maybe these fighters shouldn't be eligible to go into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. They can in baseball. Roger Clemens ain't in, right? Mark McGuire, Barry Bonds, Rafael Palmeiro. We could go on and on and on. There's punishment for what they did. Something has to end, but I couldn't take it anymore. I had to say that. I want to get your thoughts. I did single out Eddy Reynoso because this was his fighter, Jaime Munguía. The same thing with Canelo Álvarez in 2018 before his rematch with Triple G. He had Julio Cesar Martinez, March 30th, 2024. And he also had Oscar Valdez test positive. I've said enough, bud. I just want to throw it to you if you want to add anything to that. I know I went on my little rant, but there's no place in this sport or in any sport, but especially in the fight game, in the hurt business.
No, listen, Reynoso is a good trainer. We know that. He's had good fighters. He's been with good fighters. Canelo has, I judge a good trainer a couple ways. Did he take a kid from the beginning and make him a top fighter? Did he take somebody that needed to get better in his pro career or at some point in his career and make him better, make those corrections and improve him? Did he do that? And I thought Canelo got better throughout his career. Part of it is Canelo. He matured. He got experience. He's smart. And he improved. He got better, as, you would hope. But the trainer gets part of the credit for that. I've seen fighters where they get hit too much in their career early on. They're tough. They're vibrant. They have talent. They have heart. They have a great chin. Like I said, they got power. They got whatever the talents are. But they don't become harder to hit. They don't improve. They don't get improved in the areas they need to be improved to really get to their maximum potential. And you see it. I see it too many times and that's partly the trainer. The trainer needs to help them improve. And we don't have a million guys that can do that in this business. We don't have a million teachers. Reynoso, I think, did that with Canelo. I think he gets credit for doing that with Canelo. He's been with him long enough. But there's no getting around those things you touched on. I'm not there. I don't know. But, you know, that old saying, I guess, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know. But what you listed wasn't conjecture. It wasn't opinion. It wasn't, wasn't gossip. You're just mentioning black and white facts. You're just pointing out stuff that's there to point out. And it, as far as, I'm not here to slaughter him. I'm not here to defend him. I'm just here to tell it like it is. And to tell it like it is only to point out what you put forward, which is black and white documentation of facts. That's all. That's all. The rest, one thing I can't, as a trainer, I can't attest to, and I can't condone. One thing, I don't know if he's guilty or not guilty. All I know is what you said are factual things. But I do know this, that when you're the trainer, and I just gave him his accolades, and he deserved them, Reynoso. But when you're the trainer, you're responsible for everything. Everything that goes on in that camp, you know about it. If you don't, then you're not a trainer. He's a trainer. He knows about it. You have to know about it. I don't want to hear about, I don't serve him his food. I don't want to hear that, because that would be like, you're the head guy. You're the head chef. It would be like being the head chef, really. And I think this is a fair analogy. In a restaurant. And you're the top chef. And you got other guys working for you, don't get me wrong, because you got a big restaurant. You can't cook everything. So you got a big restaurant. You got assistants, that are helping prepare. But you're the man. You're the head chef. Nothing leaves that kitchen without your approval. That's it. Nothing leaves that kitchen without you saying, yeah, let it leave. Yeah, there's other people helping prepare. There's no doubt about it. It's part of, working a job. Sometimes when the job is that big that you need assistance, you need other help, you need a strength trainer, you need this, you need that. All of those things, all those moving parts, that's fair. Just like it is in the kitchen with the chef. But nothing leaves that kitchen without the chef's approval. He oversees everything. And that's all I can say. Again, I'm not here to condemn him. The guy got an all-star career. God bless him. But there is no room for steroids in my business. In a business I've been in, our business, 50 years, there is no room. Because as you said, there's no room in baseball, there's no room in the other sports. They went after it to get rid of it. Well, there's really no room in our sport. Because, yeah, they went after it, but what were they doing? It was unfair, but they were hitting a baseball. In this sport, if you're putting that in your veins, you're hitting a guy's skull. You're hitting a human being in the head. And if you have an unfair advantage because the stuff you're putting into your blood, into your veins, that's dangerous. That's beyond unfair. That's criminal and dangerous. So there is no room for it. And there's a lot more of it going on in boxing than people are even aware of. There's no doubt about it. Because we don't do a good job in my sport, in our sport, of really cleaning up those things, of policing those things. We don't even do a good job with the judging. The judges rob somebody, next week they're freaking robbing someone else. Are you kidding me? I mean, what other job could you do the worst possible job? And then still be working when Monday comes along? Nowhere, except in boxing. It's absurd. And this is even worse. Because you are putting into somebody's body that's going to use that body to go and attack someone else's body. So again, I don't know. I have never seen anything where Reynoso is a bad guy or is a slime bag and he would do this. I'm not saying he is. I don't think he is. But again, somebody's got to start somewhere cleaning this up. And you got to start with examples. And you got to start where you see these things. Then you have to have something in place, someone in place. That's where I always yell, there's got to be a national commission. Somebody in place to say, wait a minute, let's look at all of it. Not just Eddie, let's look at all. Anywhere where it comes up where somebody pops dirty. And let's start doing more testing. We're not doing enough testing. Let's do more thorough testing. And if someone pops up dirty, let's look at it. Let's do something about it. Let's have accountability. And if you ask me if, and it's a big if, but if you ask me if a fighter pops and he gets suspended, there's accountability. Whatever that accountability is for popping dirty, should the trainer also be culpable? Should he also be connected? Should he also be suspended? I'd say yes. Should there also be accountability to him? I would say yes. Because that's one of the ways you're going to stop it. For everybody to be accountable. Everybody to be accountable. If my fighter wins a fight, I get saluted. I get credit. If he loses, I also have to take responsibility for that loss. When Volcic lost the light heavyweight title to a great fighter, Beterbiev, a great fighter, I tell you the truth, I'm responsible for that loss. We were winning the first 10 rounds. We were ahead going into the 10th round in that fight against a great champion. But at the end of the day, I came up short in my preparation for that fight for Volcic to lose that fight. I did. I think I did a good job of improving Volcic and winning the title that we won against the great Adonis Stevenson, a great puncher, southpaw, great fighter. I think that I did a good job in technically improving him, making him harder to hit, giving him a style that he needed to fight against such a dangerous guy. And I thought I overall improved his technique in those areas. But I thought that in the Beterbiev fight, I deserve, I deserve.
Well, I think you're being a little hard on yourself.
No,
you
I deserve some of the responsibility for that loss.
And you guys were the only guys to be ahead on the scorecards going into the 10th round versus Artur Beterbiev until Dimitri Bivol more recently. The game plan was right. There's a lot of things we could get into there, and I'm always going to protect you because I think you did a great job that night. You just fought a great fighter, and Alex fell short. But back to the conversation of the start, something has to be done. I think conversations like this, coming up with ideas of making more accountability, as you said, to deter this kind of behavior, not from just a fighter, but the whole entire camps. There needs to be more at stake. We have too much going on in positive ways right now with boxing and infusion of money and big fights. We can't keep going backwards with this kind of stuff and at the risk of people's lives.